Right, good evening ladies and gentlemen, it's Anthony Carpenter here at the Cambridgeshire Collection here in our Central Library in Line Yard in Cambridge, and I've got hold of one of these. It's the first proposals of the Greater Cambridge Local Plan, and it's the paper version, so instead of having to scroll through the several hundred pages of local planning related things online, you can come into your local library or you can actually request it from either Cambridge City Council or South Cambridgeshire District Council for your own paper copy. I mean, they used to make bundles of these things back in the day, but given amongst other things the climate crisis that's happening at the moment and that they're discussing in Glasgow, you can kind of understand why they're not producing the numbers of these things that they are, but you can get hold of them if you wish, as well as being able to pop in basically to your local branch library in Cambridge or South Cambridgeshire to have a look at them. And one of them, as I said, is here in the Cambridgeshire Collection. Now, as well as being encouraged to basically submit your views online, if you basically go to greatercambridgeplanning.org, so that's greatercambridgeplanning, all one word, .org, and follow the links through to the emerging local plan, you can do so there. Or alternatively, what you can do is you can go to one of the offline events that are happening throughout the month of November. So for those of you who are in Cambridge, the area committees organised by the City Council for your local neighbourhoods are basically the places to go to. They've also listed here, and I'm looking at their website now, a number of other offline events, in particular, for example, some of those areas where actually there has been a lot of new build housing, the new communities. So for example, we've got Clay Farm, you've got North West and West Cambridge Community Forum, you've got the East Cambridge Community Forum. These are places where we've had already significant housing development and are going to see even more growth on that front, according to the plans that have been submitted, if these ones are approved. Now, one of the important things about being here in the Cambridgeshire Collection is it enables people like me and also people like you to have a look at the things that were proposed in times gone by and kind of be able to assess what's being proposed now in the context of both what we were promised and what we were proposed, and perhaps what we didn't get in the end. And this is why this document, the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough State of the Environment Report, is actually very, very useful on this one, because, as I said, it was signed off in 1998, so this would have been a year after the new Labour government came in. But remember, that government agreed to stick to the predecessors' spending plans, so it was over 18 years of cuts and austerity that they were dealing with, and that's the context actually that I think you have to look at this document in. But it covers a huge range of issues. I mean, it goes into over 300 pages for a start. So we've got sustainability, energy, transport, air quality, water, waste, land uses, natural environment, built environment, archaeology and cultural background, and physical background, and then at the end, the agencies and organisations involved. Now, one of the things for me that's really useful to look at amongst the things that are, in the grand scheme of things, outside of the competencies of the local councils concerned, are things like this map. Existing railway stations. Now, this was during the excruciatingly awful period of a firm known as Railtrack, and I think kind of like the less said about them, the better. But what you have are the various studies done around, for example, each of the railway stations. So it looks at what sort of other facilities there are for interchanges. Now, interestingly, I'm looking at table number 10 for the county railway transport interchanges, and it just mentions cycles, taxis and car parks. It doesn't really say much about buses, if I can put it that way. And so when we look at it from that perspective, comparing to the ideas that we're having now, in the grand scheme of things, it seems to be underselling itself, or doesn't seem to be nearly as radical as perhaps it could be, certainly when we consider what we could see in continental European countries. Let's have a look at another document, and again this one fascinates me. And if you are a politician or a local councillor looking at the local plan and also the up and coming local transport and connectivity plan being developed by the combined authority under the Mayor Nick Johnson, this document is very, very interesting. It's the Cambridgeshire Provisional Travel Plan for 2000-2005, and the issue that really strikes me here, amongst other things, is, and again, it's got all of the data that you'd really want for something like this, so you can make the comparisons. But the two things that really strike me here are, first of all, the mention of the Addenbrooke railway station, giving dates about studies and applications done in the late 1990s, and then we ask ourselves today, over a quarter of a century later, why that station still has not been built. Now, when I look at it from that perspective, from a long-term historical perspective, I come to the conclusion that it's not just a failure of individual politicians and in particular individual ministers who basically control the funding for this thing, but a breakdown of systems and processes and a structural failure. The other one that I looked at, and this is one of the things that perhaps we forget about, is they've got an audit of bridges throughout the county, and they looked at, and the table is quite striking actually, of all of the bridges that are in the county that they assessed, and the numbers that were seen to have failed. And it's really, really striking, to the extent that they put together quite a significant bridge strengthening programme for road bridges. Now, when you look at the expenditure on that, you then ask yourself, well, actually, with alternative transport, in particular active transport, so cycling, walking, e-scooters and so on, how much money would be saved with people taking journeys on much lighter forms of transport compared to driving everywhere? And so that's where the data that you have, and I'm looking at the amounts of money that are being spent here, it's really, really striking, where this kind of comes to its own. I'm going to leave this for now because I think people want to come in and do some work in here. So until next time.